Welcome to the channel. I'm Hayes. I talk movies all day. Sometimes I talk about games. So subscribe right now if you want to be entertained. And today I want to talk about He-Man, or should I say more specifically, Masters of the Universe, which is the new Netflix series produced by Kevin Smith. It drops, I think, about a week-ish ago, something like that. It generated a little bit of buzz, apparently. Generated just a little bit of controversy, so we're going to talk about that. And I will say that I'm pretty much going to get into spoilers right from the beginning. So if you've not seen it and you just wanted like a quick non-spoiler review, in my opinion, definitely worth watching. And yes, I realize you're not going to hear too many people say that, but in my opinion, I enjoyed it. I thought they did a lot right. They took some chances, definitely. It's kind of like a continuation of the original He-Man. I'm sure they retconned a few things if you start getting into all the little details of what they did with the original He-Man and She-Ra run. And of course, it was a 2002, I think, remake. I don't know if they considered that at all, but yeah, I'm sure if you get into all the little details, they've probably changed little bits here and there, but for the most part, that all still happened. That original He-Man run still happened, and this is set afterwards, so it's a reboot sequel of sorts. And I will also say that it's not quite a children's show. Like, I mean, I didn't read anything about it before watching it. I did hear about some of the controversy about it, but generally went in not knowing much about what they're doing. So I'm going into it thinking, okay, this is a children's show being produced by a 50-plus-year-old vegan stoner. How bad can it be? I think kids can still watch it, but it definitely has quite grown-up themes in there and how it portrays things, and it goes quite deep with a lot of its stuff. I don't know a whole lot about the show before watching it. Like I said, I did know there was some controversy going around, so I did know some tiny little inklings of a few things here and there, but I didn't know some of the bigger stuff, which I'm glad I didn't know before going in, because had I known that before going in, it definitely would not have been as impactful as it was. And it was pretty impactful. So yeah, if you've not seen it and you want to see it, you might want to stop now, go watch it, and then come back, because I'm about to get into some spoilers, okay? Okay, let's start off with the biggest spoiler. They kill off He-Man in the first episode. He-Man sacrifices himself, the sword splits in two, and He-Man dies, Prince Adam dies, and Teela finds out that Adam was keeping that secret from her the whole time. And a lot of the show's focus on her dealing with that revelation, if you will. But that pissed off a lot of people. A lot of people were mad that they killed the main character in the first episode, or that they killed the main character at all. For me, I didn't mind. For one thing, this is not He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. It's Masters of the Universe Revelation. So this is set after the original He-Man run. So this is after, you know, He-Man versus Skeletor. They've gone back and forth for all these years, but after that, Skeletor finally gets into Castle Grayskull, and He-Man sacrifices himself to save the world. So what happens after that? And this is what this show deals with, the aftermath of those events. I know some fans wanted the He-Man versus Skeletor again, and to be honest, I'm glad they didn't do that, because we've done that already. We've done He-Man versus Skeletor back in 1983. We've done He-Man versus Skeletor in that movie. And although I didn't watch the remake cartoon series, they probably did He-Man versus Skeletor there too. And that opens up a possibility for spin-off shows that focus more on other characters. So yeah, this one focuses more on Teela, but perhaps, just perhaps, in the future they do one that focuses more on Man-at-Arms. Maybe there's one that focuses more on Orko. Or maybe what I would like to see personally is one that focuses more on Evelyn and her story. Just putting it out there, just putting it out there. But the story they're going with this one, or at least the story they're going with so far, because we still have to wait and see what they do with part 2 of season 1, but the story they're going with this does bring more depth to Teela and Evelyn and Andra, which leads on to the next thing that people were mad about, that it is more female focused. And yeah, it does focus more on the female characters, and yeah, it is a little bit obvious, and yeah, maybe you can say they're shoving it down just a little bit too much. But you know what? So what? My thing is, why does that make it bad? I mean, why does the fact that they focus more on the female characters mean that it's a rubbish TV show? You know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't matter that they focus more on the female characters. What should matter is what kind of story do they deliver, and what did that do for you? And if the whole reason you didn't like it is because they didn't focus on He-Man and they focused more on the female characters, then I'm gonna guess you probably wasn't paying too much attention to what they actually were doing with the show. Because this show deals with grief, betrayal, feeling like your whole life was a lie, trying to find yourself and figure out who you are. There's quite a few deep concepts in this show. So if your whole takeaway was, but there's women, Come on, man. Now, there is one complaint I'd agree with based on how Kevin Smith chose to promote the show. Now, like I said, before I watched this, I wasn't reading too much into all the news and stuff. I just heard a few bits here and there. But after watching that, I did kind of go back and look at some of the things that people were saying. Apparently, people were pissed off about the way Kevin Smith chose to promote it because they felt like what he said was misleading. And the thing that I found out he said, and perhaps it isn't the very specific thing that people are actually pissed off about, but the closest I could find was that he said that this is a show for the original fans, and the original fans are going to love it, or they're going to, really dig it, or something along those lines. And that's where I'd say maybe you should have said that, because the thing is, people are always going to like what they like and not like what they don't like, and you can't really promise that kind of thing or suggest that kind of thing because you have no idea what people like. People who watch the original show, I mean, granted, I'm one of the original fans and I definitely enjoyed the show, but clearly there was plenty of people who did not. So yeah, maybe you should say something like, I feel like it's going to be a good show and I hope that you enjoy it too. Maybe something like that would have been a better thing to say rather than, you're going to enjoy it if you're one of the original fans. Maybe, just maybe. But as far as being misleading goes, I personally couldn't find anything that was super misleading. But if he did do anything like that, then yeah, that's bad. But then again, I feel like when you promote in shows, you don't want to give away too much, especially when you know you're holding back a pretty big secret. You're not going to be like, yeah, we're going to kill off He-Man and we're going to, you're not going to say that right away. You want that to be a surprise. So yeah, perhaps he said something that somebody interpreted in some way, and because you don't know what the show's going to be, then you watch the show and you feel like, oh, this is what they're going to go with, and it's not what I was thinking. I do think that if you're going to do a show like this, then one of the things you should not do is actually ask the fans what they want. Because yeah, there's times to get feedback and that whole thing. I don't think this is one of those times. There's no quote. It's apparently a Henry Ford quote where he says, if I'd asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. I think sometimes as a creative, you have an idea and in your hearts of hearts, you just know that it's a great idea, it's a bold idea, and you just got to go with it. And even though other people might say you shouldn't do this, you should do that, you just kind of have to go with what you believe is the best option in that moment. But as far as the public accepting that idea goes, maybe they do, maybe they don't. Maybe like in this case, it's just me and maybe one or two other people that liked it and everyone else is pissed off. But the fact that they took an established property, a very well-established property, and did something that nobody thought they would do, that to me on its own deserves some props. Because this is how you move things forward, by doing things that nobody expects you to do. Who says storytelling has to be this one thing, and if you don't do that one thing, then it's bad. But as for part 2 of season 1, my guess is we haven't seen the last of Prince Adam or He-Man. I'm guessing that they're going to come back in some way. Maybe, maybe not. We'll have to wait and see. And if they don't, then oh well, it is what it is. But I'm guessing if he could come back to life once, he could come back to life twice. Just saying. Or maybe She-Ra turns up, that could be a cool thing too. But that's what I think of Masters of the Universe Revelation Season 1 Part 1. What did you think of Masters of the Universe Revelation Season 1 Part 1? Let me know down below, and while you're there, be sure to like, subscribe, and drop a suggestion if you don't mind.